Hello there, Star Wars fans. Today I want to get into some of the lore surrounding Darth Plagueis and his master, Darth Tenebris. Why and how Plagueis killed his master, and I've just finally gotten around to reading the Plagueis book, and I love it so far. So let's go over one of the beginning chapters, the story of how Plagueis kills his master, similar to how Palpatine kills Plagueis later on, the Way of the Sith. Also, there are some Mandalorian/Bad Batch topics I want to cover this week, but I'm giving it a bit of time for spoilers, so if you want to hear that, please leave a like, subscribe, and I did release a new fan fiction yesterday. Love doing those, gonna keep doing 1 to 2 a week, so subscribe, leave a like, appreciate you all very much. Let's get into it right now. It was a dark night on the planet Baldemic. Darth Tenebris, a Bith, and his apprentice, Darth Plagueis, a Mun, were exploring the uneven caves of the planet for a cortosis ore they'd heard was supposed to be around here somewhere. This ore was powerful against lightsabers, being able to basically short them out if used correctly. To do this, they were being helped with a mining droid, as extracting this ore was extremely dangerous, and it could explode if done incorrectly. The two Sith would get this droid ready, and then have it mine. Then they would sprint away from the droid who was extracting the ore. As they ran, Plagueis could sense his master was in a great state of fear, but he could not place why. The Force was silent, he thought. Now they were running because the droid was mining the ore, and there was a great risk of explosion. And as they ran, the ore and the droid exploded behind them, causing a rather massive explosion that would catch up to the Sith. Plagueis dove to safety, and when he looked up, he could see his master, creating a force shield to hold back the explosion fireball. As they held back the explosion fire, the cave around the Sith was falling down, until the collapsing rocks were about to fall right on top of Tenebris. And suddenly, Plagueis realized why Tenebris was paralyzed with fear just moments ago. This is where he would die, at the hands of his apprentice. Plagueis looked over at his master, and he was holding up pieces of the cave that was about to crush their ship, while also holding up pieces that would protect himself. Pieces were ready to fall on Tenebris and ready to crush their ship, their only means of escape at the moment. And without thinking at all, knowing this was the will of the Force and the way of the Sith, Plagueis used the Force to bring down slabs of rock to crush Tenebris in an extremely quick motion. Plagueis had begun to truly suspect that his master had grown old and sluggish, and doing this was all proof that he needed. He couldn't save himself from the rocks, couldn't even feel that Plagueis was about to betray him. And after he brought the stones down on his master, Plagueis would rush to his side with both excitement and a bit of a charade of pretending to try to save him. The one lung of Tenebris was pierced and blood gurgled in his throat. Plagueis would pretend to act concerned for only a moment, and as he lay there dying, Tenebris tasked him now with bringing the Jedi Order to its knees before giving one final warning. Tenebris told Plagueis, "I need to give you one final warning about you." And at that moment, Plagueis would reveal that he indeed brought the cave down, and that he would be the one to rebrand the Sith Order, undoing the rule of two. Tenebris applauded him for his surprise tactics, but then a moment later, got angry and screamed at him for destroying their ship, not protecting it from the debris, focusing only on killing Tenebris instead of maintaining their means of escape. This, according to Tenebris, or so he thought, would destroy the Sith, as Plagueis would now be stranded. Plagueis didn't care to hear a lecture, though, and he snapped the neck of his master as he lay there, barely alive. But as he did that, he only paralyzed him. He couldn't move, he couldn't talk, but Tenebris lay there, slowly dying, but still alive. His life was not completely faded. Plagueis was looking at the paralyzed body, and he did this to study how the midichlorians inside of him reacted to a dying body. He studied him to see if there was a way to manipulate the midichlorians, perhaps to extend life. Eventually, as he was doing this, Tenebris did die, and Plagueis thought for just a moment that perhaps he should worry about an essence transfer, something that hadn't been around for a long time, since around the Darth Bane era. But alas, he put the thought away as it was a power that had been out of practice for many years. At least that's what Plagueis was taught. And that's the story of the first few chapters of how Plagueis killed his master. And as we know, Plagueis is later killed by Palpatine, as that's just what the Sith do. They bring in an apprentice, they train them until they're ready to kill them. In Palpatine's case, he did Maul, he did Dooku, and eventually it was Anakin who did that. But of course, Palpatine failed in securing Anakin/Vader to remain a Sith and continue the Sith legacy. So that's where we're at with that. I think it's a fun story. It's interesting. I highly recommend the Plagueis book. It's super interesting, although it is technically Legends. You can take it as canon, in my opinion, just because we know Darth Plagueis is canon because it's said in Revenge of the Sith. So this book, to me, it happened. All the events to me. I don't care that it's Legends. I like to refer to it as canon. But I really enjoyed it. I did. I thought it was a good story about how Plagueis, the Sith, the Plagueis in general, they look at their masters when they start to get old and they start to, lose their way a little bit. And they just decide it's time for them to die. Time for the other Sith to take over as the master. And they just kind of understand that's the way of things. Tenebris understood as he was dying that this was just going to happen. The Sith are super interesting. I hope we get to explore stuff like this more in the Acolyte show. But overall, let me know, what do you think of this story? I think it's great. So let me know, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.